Welcome to another episode of The Point of View. And this is a program that brings very topical issues that dominates the news throughout the entire week. And you'll be getting different perspectives to that. And to make matters very interesting here on the platform, we have two very vocal resource persons. First, I have Shuge. Shuge, we're celebrating, but you seem to be in a sober mode.
Am I? What are we celebrating?
Independence. We're 65.
No, but it has passed now. That was a few days ago.
Yeah, we're
Wait,
seeing
we,
the
were,
move.
we were excited that day,
Okay,
Yeah, we're still excited, even though we'll have questions.
Yes, to ask.
Well, we'll have to take a look at ourselves in the mirror.
It's felicitation, not sober reflection.
Yeah.
But the way you
No, both put together.
All right. Okay, so I guess we've already started the conversation. There's no need for me to go through all this. I'll just pick it up later. Okay, let me start with Shuge. I was about to go through the major topics of conversation.
Yes.
I just noticed that there's a need for us to just dwell on this. Nigeria 65. We heard the speech of Mr. President. He talked about several laudable achievements. Well, he acknowledges the fact that there's been a lot of sacrifices being made by Nigerians, but we have several achievements that have been made during the 65 years, from the number of schools, education, where we've gone from what we were in the past to where we are now. What do Nigerians feel about the statements and the speech by Mr. President?
I mean, I think there's been mixed reactions. A lot of his supporters are, giving kudos to some of the things he said. He highlighted some of the wins that the country has made in terms of, the economy, in terms of, sorting out the ways and means, talking about, the economic surplus we've experienced in the past 6 months or thereabout. Some of the things he mentioned are laudable, but then, some of his, and I don't want to say the opposition now, but just Nigerians are looking at it and also saying, well, some of these things we've not seen them reflect in the lives of the average Nigerian, and I think that's where the major consensus should be. That's where the major focus and conversation should be at. We're celebrating 65 years of independence. In 65 years, what have we been able to achieve? In 65 years, if you look through the timeline, it's almost as though things were good and now they're getting worse. So it's going the reverse way it's supposed to go. They're supposed to go from bad to worse, but they seem they're supposed to go from, bad to good to better. But in this case, they seem to be going from bad to worse, which is, not what we want to see in terms of security, in terms of the economy, in terms of, just means of livelihood and things like that. So, the president's speech was good. He said, the things you would expect him to say, we're getting close to the finish line. There's light at the end of the tunnel. These are the basic things that the president says every time he gives a speech, but are some of these things reflected in the lives of the average Nigerian? I think that's the question that we should all reflect on, celebrating independence.
When you say that things have been getting worse and not really better, one would say that he has reeled out facts and figures. So are Nigerians using their emotions to make assessment of Mr. President?
No, they're using facts, actually. The figures that the president is reeling out, it works like any other, organization. There's always data. There's always people doing, scientific studies and showing these are the figures. We've gone up, we've done this, we've done that. How much is bread? Bread today is going from about 2,000 naira to 2,500 naira. Right now, bread used to be 500 naira, 1,000 naira.
That's a family size.
Yeah, the big loaf,
ones.
exactly. The price of that has not gone down at all. If anything, we've seen the price of fuel go up by about 50 naira, 100 naira in the past 2 weeks because of the back and forth going on with PENGASSAN and Dangote. Do you understand? So when we look at some of these things, yes, he can keep reeling out figures, he can keep reeling out statistics, and that's great, but it's not actually translating, and that's the challenge the average Nigerian is having. Because if it's not translating in the lives of the average Nigerian, then what are we even in? The trade surplus we're talking about, okay, fine. Somebody asked the question, I said, okay, we've had the trade surplus. Where's the money? What are we doing with the surplus money?
More revenue for the government.
Yeah, so how is the government spending that money? It's still not translating to the lives of the average
Maybe the
Nigerian.
channels, the systems. Anayo, bringing it to you. One would say what Mr. President has been trying to say is the governor should water the grass. That's been a statement, figuratively speaking. You are sound with literature. What do you make of watering the ground? Are the state governors hijacking this trade surpluses we're making on our earnings? Because it is said that we've never made this amount of money in record years until now. Yet the people and the masses can't feel that.
Well, let me begin by saying that what Mr. President said, the things he said were expected. The role of government watering the grass is also something that shouldn't sound new to us. He made the broadcast to give out the good sides of his policies, and then it is left for economic analysts, citizens to take a look at them and see how they're working. Don't forget that on that same day, about 21 countries across the world celebrated their national days, including some countries in Africa. China was China's national day, October 1st. Technically, I keep telling people Nigeria is as old as China, technically. It doesn't matter the number of empires that have come before. The national day is October 1st. Now, the question we should ask ourselves, where are we in this race for economic emancipation? In this economic highway where everybody is throttling full speed? Are we changing tires? Or are we at full speed like other countries, like China? I mean, back in the days, people used to talk about Chinese products, Taiwan products, but today they're not affordable. How come we seem to be, like I said, changing tires when other racers are still changing gear? When you change a tire, it slows you down. So economically, I think it's not about Mr. President, it's not about the APC, it's about Nigeria, a country that has refused to be at full throttle in an era of versatility, in an era where AI is breathing down the necks of everyone. And we are still...
This independence has a lot more to do with sovereignty, national sovereignty, self-governance for the country, and economic emancipation.
Emancipation.
Now, bringing it back to this economic emancipation.
Yes.
Forbes just released a report this same week that Nigeria has the 9th worst currency in Africa.
Yes. Is that a cause for celebration?
No, I'm trying to compare that with what Mr. President said in the speech. It sounds like the report negates what Mr. President is saying. How can we say that we're improving economically and be having the 9th worst currency at the same time? I don't know if Shuge can make, sense of this to reconcile this. Stand on Mr. President about the achievements and at the same time having a currency that's weakened. Even when we said that we've closed the gap between, the Forex window, the black market, and also the official rates now has been closed. Yet we're having an abysmal record of 9th worst currency.
I think that just shows you how bad the currency was to begin with. Props to the president for getting things slightly better. And I specifically use the word slightly, but it just goes to show you how bad things actually are. I remember maybe not the first time, but maybe the second and the third time we saw a significant drop in the currency. It went from about 140 something naira to 250. And it was as though the world was going to end in Nigeria. Everybody went crazy. Oh my God. What do you mean by, 250 naira to $1? What? This is so ridiculous. People, were saying they can't travel anymore, this and that. I'm sure people will wish to go back to that time now, and then we kept seeing it go worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And now what the president is saying is, look, we've been able to do this. We've been able to get the naira here. We've been able to close the gap between the black market and the official rates. That's good. But these are all, for lack of a better way to put it, these are local wins. You are celebrating. You're tapping yourself on the back. Exactly. If you stand in the international market, we have absolutely nothing to celebrate. If you're looking at home here, you can we're good. We did this and we did that. That's good. You're celebrating to your fellow village people. But then when you're standing globally, you have no leg to stand on because our currency is still bad. And this is what the issue is. The president is saying, look, there's trade surplus. What are we giving out? What are we selling? What's the trade? And this is the question that I still want answered.
Because if you look at it, we're a manufacturing.
Exactly.
Man is crying. So what are we?
What is the trade that we're enjoying the surplus in? That the surplus for? These are the questions that we need answers
to.
We
need auditors, as I was saying.
Yeah, we do need national auditors.
National auditing.
Yeah, we need national auditing.
But was anyone expecting the president to say something otherwise? Well, he has to look at the good sides of his government.
Yes.
But the reality is that we, the people of Nigeria, can sit back and say, look, this is correct and this is not correct. Well, Forbes has given out their own account. And I expected someone to say, no, Forbes, you're wrong. This is the right account. But no one has said that yet. Yeah, I understand when the president of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives said, Nigerians be patient. such comments are good.
But
Be patient, because they also understand
yes.
that people are going through.
But at the same time, you have to ask. I mean, Nigerians have been patient for a very long time now. Nigerians have been patient since 2000 and what? Since for a very long time, Nigerians have been patient now. So it's how much patience are we supposed to exercise? With the coming of every new administration, they give us the hope that things will get better. We can do this, we can do that. But at the same time, it's a question of, look, what 2027 is just around the corner, and for everything that the president thinks he's doing or is actually doing. When you look at it, the only thing Nigerians I stand to be corrected on this, but I think the most significant thing that this administration will be remembered for is the tax bill that's going to start running in 2026.
Are you saying remembered for in terms of how it impacts on the citizens?
Yes.
Well, let's get there first.
Well, again, that's why I said I stand to be corrected. But what we're being told to pay more taxes when we're not getting any services.
Now, still talking about economic reforms, one of the major things that people keep talking about this particular administration is the tax reform bills. And during the week, the chairman of the Presidential Committee for the Tax Reforms and Fiscal Policy happened to be at the City of David Church, Redeemed Christian Church of God in Lagos. And he was speaking about the fact that there's no discrimination between any source of earnings in Nigeria when it comes to taxation, whether it's legitimate or illegitimate. To be precise, on the headlines, it was captured: Ron's girls would also be taxed. And the question is, how do you even track earnings by Ron's girls, given the fact that gifts cannot be taxed? Well, is this purely a sentimental statement coming from a church by the chairman of that presidential committee, Shuge? Let's start from you.
Well, I think we'll soon start seeing a union of commercial sex workers going into next year, because just so that they can stay on top of this. The major challenge with this is going to be, how do you track it? That's the question. How do you track it? If I was a sex worker and I went to sleep with somebody and they paid me money and the money is taxed, I can simply go and say, well, no, I'm not a sex worker. That's my friend. I just helped him to press his back in the night when he was
just
paying me.
massage.
Exactly. And don't tax me. There was no transaction here. So I think the challenge with that is going to be monitoring. But that aside, I understand the case of ensuring that everybody is taxed equally, but then we're going to have to build up a major distinction between businesses and individuals, because there are a lot of individuals who have private businesses, right? And those businesses, the business account rather is their personal account. So how do you track that? Because they're not tagged as a business; they're tagged as individuals.
Corporate accounts.
Exactly. If I decide to start selling rice out of my kitchen that I cook at home, you can't tax. I mean, I can claim that I'm just sharing the food, and people are just giving me gifts, because gifts can be taxed. Do you understand? So these are some loopholes that we're probably going to see going into next year, that people will try to get away with things with, but with not paying tax. And there has to be some major scrutiny when it comes into these areas. But aside from that, the tax reform is here. There's no fighting that. I think everybody has come to terms with the fact that tax reform is here. We're all going to start paying more tax from 2025. I think the major question would be, what benefits are we going to be getting from the tax? We're going to be paying more tax. At least ensures that we're going to be getting better services in terms of healthcare, in terms of electricity, in terms of education, all those things.
Yeah. Real points being raised by Shige.
Yes.
They're commercial sex workers. It's commercial, but you can't tax it because you can't trace it.
But who says you can't trace them? The commercial sex workers have an association nationwide.
Do they?
Recently, they lost I think the Federal Capital Territory lost a case against them.
Yeah, we saw that.
Yes, so they have an association. And don't forget that it's the world's oldest profession. You could go through history from the beginning of man. It has always been there. It's a profession. So now, to get them to pay taxes may not really be difficult. That is if you want to tax those who are professionally recognized. I don't know the kind of examination they write to get professional qualification.
Because I was about to ask if there's a license.
I don't know, but I know that to have a professional body like that, Commercial Sex Workers Association of Nigeria, you must have written some examinations. One wonders the kind of examinations they will be writing. So what we should expect the government
examination?
to do,
maybe it is some kind of like assessment, not really examination.
Maybe assessment, whatever, maybe whatever. Now they are there. we're going to watch. It's interesting to find out how government will tax them and how to differentiate between gifts and giveaways and other things. Now, the thing is that January, let's wait for it. Whether it will be a time of celebration or a time of mourning. But I think that it will be a side of celebration on the side of government. Government will have to will make more money, but for the people paying, even though it is said that it's not targeted at the poor. Let's see whether it will be a time for the poor to celebrate and see how it works. Because you can't take a flesh without blood. Let's see how it works. So now, it's a good thing for Nigeria. Like I said, we're going to make more money, but let's find out how we're going to monitor the monies that will be made. It's not a matter of someone who make all the money and one smart aleck walks away with the entire money.
The government is always concerned about luxury services and luxury goods. They should be taxed more.
Yeah.
And most of those commercial sex workers have been
That's luxury.
It's luxury, exactly.
Because
And their patronage comes from the elites.
And again,
Oftentimes, even in the FCT.
it is luxury because some of the patrons have at home and they're asking for more. So you're asking for more.
I mean,
right?
I don't know if you can, properly classify it as a luxury because even the common man may, need company.
That's
luxury
even
service is still luxury.
because
You can't die if you don't have it. So it's luxury.
He who has
Some people will die.
no, sugar. If you have
So medical.
if
That should be
you
a medical.
sell a dog to buy monkey,
Yes.
you still have a squatting animal in your compound. So you have not gone. So you see.
Okay, guys, let's talk PENGASSAN.
It's all right.
I think finally that issue started to look like some national security issue. Sabotage coming from plants and all that. 800 persons sacked, then 2,000 new workers allegedly have been employed from India all the way, all thanks to sabotage internally in our country. Now, with all of that, no, PENGASSAN just couldn't take it. So they embarked on a strike, and there was a slash of 16% projected loss for gas production and oil production in the country. 30% going to other aspects of production within that particular sector. The country is actually counting losses. Now it has been resolved. Dangote had a meeting with the Minister for Labor and Employment and also, the side of PENGASSAN. But what Nigerians are asking is, in the past, we've seen videos of Abacha, suspending, the leadership of PENGASSAN and installing new leaders of that group. It shows you that there's an issue of national security going further. If these people would continue at this level, what lies in the future? What are the lessons from this?
Now, if you ask me, we have not seen the last of this matter. Because where did the Indians emanate from? Were they in the waiting? Were they waiting for this to happen? Had Dangote gone ahead to hint them of a possible clash with Nupenga and PENGASSAN before they arrived to say, look, if what I'm asking for doesn't work, then you guys will take over. Now, the matter is not good. And in any case, without looking like I don't like people coming from outside to work in Nigeria, I want to say, look, the Indians are everywhere. Remember they were in Ajakuta still. They had a stay there, which they had a stint at the Ajakuta State Company, and eventually they were asked to go, for some kind of practices that the government discovered wasn't palatable. So I don't think we've seen the last of that, and it hasn't been resolved as far as I'm concerned. Maybe they just parties are lying low, waiting for the
There were
future.
conditions. I'm not sure if you read the communique. They're supposed to be brought back, reinstated, but they won't be taken back in the petroleum department. They'll be sent to other departments of the Dangote Group. That's the condition. But they wouldn't be segregated when it comes to pay. They're not going to lose anything.
Yeah.
Now, people are saying that even if they were to send them to any other department, PENGASSAN will still be there to watch or create other unions. And that's, the banters that are coming from other people. If Dangote is actually scared that they will be sabotaging that because PENGASSAN are interested in that, he should know that there should be other unions, whether it comes to
Funny
pasta.
enough, a lot of Nigerians have come to back the Dangote position, saying that so people have said, unions. For instance, someone said, look, the ASU cannot unionize those teaching in private universities and other cases or all of that. But
Senator Ndume.
Yeah,
He said that.
so quite a lot of persons have said, but I think we have to draw a line, because when pushing turns to shoving, these same workers will say, "Look, where are the unions to come help us?" So now, I don't know what Dangote stands to lose if he allows unionization. Maybe for those who know the figures, they can tell us. But I think we can manage it instead of allowing this to fester. Because at the end of the day, by next year, we may see NLC and other groups wading into this to say, because unions can't just dissolve because Dangote doesn't want them. And if that happens, other people may take a cue from him and say, okay, since Dangote is not unionizing, we're not going to unionize. And at the end of the day, we'll have a Nigeria, unionless Nigeria, unionless country, which is not good. But the unions are strong in the US
Yeah.
and other countries. So this whole thing about unions should be resolved properly. I don't know,
Well,
but government should do something
you
about
said
it.
unions. Oftentimes we like making reference to US for examples when it
Yeah.
comes to democracy and governance, and I would like to speak on that just quickly. But before then, I would like to still get your opinion on this matter, this Pengassan issue. While they were on strike, 30% of our market gas was affected. That's the production and a supply of that. 20% of electricity generation was also affected. If we're saying, just like what Anaya said, that this might not be the end of this, for how long are we going to be seeing this disruption?
So it's hard to say. There's been a handful of meetings. With Pengassan, with Dangote, with the NSA, with the DSS, with the Minister of the Economy Wale Edun. There's been a lot of back and forth and discussions on what is going on here, but somehow they've still not been able to reach a consensus. The at the conclusion of the last meeting, where the communique was that you talked about was shared. Pengassan came out to say, look, they didn't sign any agreements with Dangote. This is all verbal. This is all on the side of the government, right? But there was no verbal agreement that was reached between Pengassan and Dangote that was signed. So that just goes to show you that there's still some rift there.
Yeah.
Another thing to also take note of is right now across Nigeria, you can go out and ask, people. Pengassan is getting very, very little sympathy from Nigerians. They're getting very little support from the average Nigerian, because the average Nigerian will tell you, look, they're just trying to stop this man who's trying to give us cheaper fuel. That's the perception of the
People
average
feel
Nigerian.
that they're being paid by expatriates to ground the economy. In the country.
Exactly. So when you look at all that's going on with Pengassan and with Dangote, I'm not surprised that he's taking some of the measures he's taking, like letting them go and hiring, Indians and whatnot. His claim of sabotage, whether true or not, this is a private company. Let's all just take cognizance of that. I think sometimes we forget.
Yeah.
This is a private company by a
business.
private individual who wants to make money, who should make money as a result. In fact, spend $20 billion setting up that refinery.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a lot. It's a major investment.
He has to protect his
Exactly. He has to protect his investment. So if he claims that there's sabotage in there and he would rather not work with persons under Pengassan, fine. He can send them to other departments, like they said, and I'm sure.
I'm just thinking now, for people who are, Mr. President has been traveling around the world as an ambassador for all the different countries in the world representing Nigeria to get foreign direct investment. If you want people to invest in your country, and you're clearly telling those people who would invest in the country that as investors they can't determine the hiring process, wouldn't that scare foreign investors in establishing companies here in the country? Because the hiring, you can't dictate. I'm putting my money into the system, and you're telling me how I should hire. I can't have the power to hire and to fire.
Exactly.
Well, if I may come in here, yes, Dangote is doing private business. Some people have also said, look, did he set out wanting to be treated like a private business? Didn't he ask for government considerations? If we look back at the beginning and now of the refinery, wasn't there areas where he made it look like it was government helping the people? I remember when President Buhari commissioned that, it was at 20% completion. So all along, the feeling has been, hey, Dangote is doing this for Nigeria, Dangote is doing it for the good of the people, but now, they say, in any case, these Pengassan members are Nigerians working. So, yes, it's a private business, but let us know that what you have also enjoyed as a private business owner, and they see how you can meet us midway.
There's
We know it's
ASU,
private, but it has
ASU,
also,
like ASU, do they regulate other lecturers and other universities that are private, private schools
They,
or
they
private
don't really
institutions?
directly regulate them, but at times they enjoy the sympathy of those who are working in private universities. Right?
No, so let's look at it this way, right?
Yeah.
Looking at what's going on with Dangote, yes, there was government involvement in setting up the refinery,
Yes.
very much so. He needed, a lot of authorization and things like that,
Yeah.
and the government helped.
Mm.
Why? Because he's a friend of the government.
Good.
Let's bear in mind, this is still the richest person in Africa we're talking about here.
Good.
The government has a stake in the company, right? How many percent is that? We learned it was 20%.
Yeah.
Now we learned that it's actually 7%. Why? Because a lot of the shares were diluted and they were shared to individuals
Good.
and not, the lump sum 20% that was in the company. If you own 7% of a company, you can't really call plenty shots like that. Why?
Yeah.
Because there are other persons who have
Voting
major
rights.
stakeholders.
And-
There are other stakeholders. You're not the
Yes.
major stakeholder in the company.
That's right.
Right? So I think we should have that in mind.
And
So,
the shares that were diluted.
yes.
Who are the owners?
Well, we don't know. That's another thing. Now, we
Maybe
don't know.
private individuals still in the
They're
government,
private
but then
individuals in the government.
Yes.
Exactly.
Private
That's what we're saying.
individuals who
But it's no longer, it's not national.
Yes,
Yes.
private
Or
individuals
government thing.
who may have a hand in the employment of members of PENGASSAN, if you investigate.
But
So
who owns the major,
conflict
who
of
owns
interest
the
there.
majority stake in the company?
well,
It's still the individual Dangote.
then why had he not wielded the big stick and gone ahead to say, look, if you
Well,
don't
he's
do
trying to.
this, okay,
all right, away from PENGASSAN, I guess we're praying we don't get to see any, cut in electricity supply of 20% or 30% of, gas and all. Now, let's take a trip to the United States because it appears that we get impressed easily by their system of democracy and all that. But all of a sudden, Trump gives me a feeling of being a Nigerian. So,
well, that's what it looks like.
that's what it looks like. The National
Maybe
Assembly started to
chubby
look like
chubby.
Nigerian National Assembly too. Well, on the one hand, they can agree on expenditure and spending, on government expenditure. When it started, that's because the Democrats and the Republicans cannot agree, especially at the Senate level. 60%, of the members of the that's the Senate there in the United States are the Republicans, but they can't pass a law about spending in the United States without agreement from the Democrats. And Democrats said no, they're not going to be a part of it because of the health insurance and all the tax credit they're supposed to extend since COVID-19. They feel that they're subjecting the Americans to undue hardship. Now, all of a sudden, as retaliation, trade retaliation, that Trump does to Africans, he did the same to his opponents in his country. $26 billion have been withheld from Democrat states. How would you do that in a country? It's like saying President Bola Ahmed Tinubu would not release funds to PDP states in Nigeria. Did this come to you as a surprise? Shugi, let me start from you.
Yes and no. Yes, no, rather, because this is something Donald Trump is capable of doing, right? This is Donald Trump we're talking about here. This is the most, unprecedented individual we've seen.
Unpredictable at the same
Exactly, unpredictable person we've seen. But at the same time, yes, because that's a bit of a stretch. Now they're experiencing a government shutdown. But the major challenge we're seeing now is these both parties don't want to come and sit down to discuss. That's the major challenge we're seeing, right? The Democrats are saying, look, okay, fine, you pay the money and then we'll come sit down and call off the government shutdown. And Trump is saying, no, you call off the government shutdown first and then I'll pay the monies, right? So it's this
Negotiation,
bickering,
that's
exactly, it's a back and forth thing. I think the major challenge, just taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture here, the major challenge that the US is having today is the other end of the extreme of what Nigeria is experiencing. Too much ideology. I think that's the problem.
Okay.
No, I genuinely think this is the problem with America. In Nigeria, our argument is we don't have any ideology. Everybody's just going based off of their pockets and what they want and how they feel. In America, the problem is too much ideology. The fact that everybody is too what's I don't even know the word to use now, but they're so sold to their ideology that they would not look the other way. Nuance is in very, very short supply in that part of the world. So you feel as though
compromise.
Exactly, there's no compromise, there's no middle ground. I'm a Democrat. As far as I'm concerned, every single thing the Republicans stand for is rubbish, and I don't agree with them. There's no opening to sit down and discuss. And it's the same way, it's the same thing the other way around. As a Republican, they believe that everything that the Democrats
Possibly
stand
why
for
they
is
wiped out the
wrong,
Obamacare.
and the left wing and what have you, and they obviously there are claims that Obamacare, there's a lot of corruption in that, and a lot of the monies that were put into that was stolen and mismanaged and what have you. But right now there's a government shutdown. Why is that not like the major discussion, right? Why is that not what everybody's concerned about? And from what we understand, the government shutdown started on Tuesday, and our understanding is if this goes on, the government can only run and keep paying salaries for the next 2 weeks,
Yeah.
and then there's going to be a major issue because there's no
There'll be
money.
layoff.
Yeah, and
Federal workers.
they probably will be layoffs and
Yeah.
things like that. So when you look at it, Donald Trump is a very interesting individual, and he's a great businessman. Obviously, for him to have built the empire he built, I think his net worth is about $7 billion or something like that. Obviously, you have to be a very smart individual to get to that level, right?
In real estate.
But sometimes you look at it and I think he runs the country sort of like he's running a Fortune 500 company, and you can't really do that because there are a lot of lives at
Capital
stake.
markets, yeah.
Exactly, there are a lot of lives at stake.
And
Well,
is
this is not
this
the first time. Okay, even in Nigeria, this
Yeah.
is not the first time. You remember when President Obasanjo cut funds to Lagos State?
Yes,
The current president was the governor of Lagos State then,
yes,
over the creation of local councils.
yes.
And President Tinubu, Governor Tinubu then survived, and then the matter was eventually resolved. So I think, like Sugar said, politics and ideology at play in the United States, but they have a way of coming out of it. You're not going to expect America to go into recession as a result of this.
Yes.
Before the time they'll find a way resolving it. Even what we call current the shutdown is not as bad as it would have been in Nigeria. Maybe some services, here and there, not very noticeable, but they're there. But because they are also very sensitive to the what affects their citizens. That's why it's in the news. Ordinarily, what we call shutdown in the US is a normality.
Normal.
Yeah, in Africa, in Nigeria. So, but well, they are going to come out of it, and like you said, Trump is a big guy. He's well, you.
he
can
feels he's
hate-
trying to save money.
Yeah, and he's trying to save
He
money.
feels there's a whole lot of waste going through that process of those spending bills and all. So if they're taking care, if he's withdrawing money that's supposed to settle the insurance and all that, he will save a lot of money. But if you're saving money, he's thinking as a businessman. The Democrats are thinking as humanists. So if you look at the whole thing, you're having a capitalist against a socialist approach within the same country. Should you care more about your people or think about how you're saving? And this reminds me of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I once said on air that these two, to me, they're kind of alike because President Tinubu also looks like a businessman to me. If you look at tax reforms and all that, save a lot of money for the country, but at the end of the day, you're still battling with social welfare and services to the people. Which should come first? The Democrats actually have a case.
They have a case. Their ideology, humanism, and which Trump thinks had taken America nowhere, has led to the infiltration of America by those he referred to as criminals and, cannibals. And so he has his agenda, and he won the elections. Ironically, Americans voted for him. So that means he still has people who think that, look, we need to put
America
America
first.
first. So the Democrats, you understand, because it's politics, they also kick back at some of these things. But I think Trump is really has established himself as a world leader. You can like or hate him.
So we can't do anything about this.
Yeah, he's way ahead of Obama, who was, maybe if you ask me, too interactive with the world.
And no, he had very beautiful speeches.
Yeah, interactive, and then maybe led to, somehow people saw him as a very easygoing guy. But,
That's a Democrat.
Yeah,
Normally
but
Democrats are like
the
that.
tough talking, gung-ho type of Trump doesn't care. I
He
think.
wouldn't care because you guys shot him in the air.
You remember he told Keir Starmer, look,
Yeah.
multiculturalism will kill Europe.
And
And just yesterday,
Exactly.
someone stood up and stabbed two individuals
Synagogues.
to death. So anyway, that's a story for
he has
another
no-
day.
he has his own
I'm sure,
case.
and you can see that Keir Starmer quickly stopped his trip in Denmark and dashed back home to make a national address.
Well, but this is not fair. Just when they're trying to resolve issues in the Middle East, and those people had to do
Yeah,
that,
so
trying to justify the
I
start
just
of
wish we could make
Donald
our
Trump.
country like that, and so we can tell people to come on Australia. Let's
Okay, like
go
America.
first. Let's get this country so we can be happy, and then we can tell those who are coming, please come or don't come.
All right. So at the end of the day, it has happened before under the then president Olusegun Obasanjo and our sitting president now, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So it's not
Yeah,
new.
cutting of funds. Yeah.
Yeah, cutting of funds. Okay. If they have true federalism there too, and they have good IGR, they shouldn't be concerned. They can run their state governments, isn't it? Look, she gets laughing.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
it's
should be
just a
able to, yeah.
disagreement. It's
Yeah.
a
It
disagreement.
It should be.
It
should be.
happens in politics. You know,
All right.
The Democrats themselves do not hate America. So
All right.
at the end of the day, they will resolve.
Yeah.
But I don't see Democrats coming back to the Oval Office in another 8 years.
Yeah, same here.
You don't see them?
I think
Yeah,
it's going
yeah.
to be a while.
It's going to be a
We
while
see
before.
Democrats come back.
Oh.
I think the
Because of the
Republicans are
insecurity
going to-
across other parts of the world,
Yeah,
everybody.
the Republicans are going to stay for a while. Yes, that's my prediction.
So we're becoming less of a global village, and every nation is going back to itself to protect its personal interest.
You know, physician, heal thyself.
Okay, heal thyself first. Okay, so can we wrap it up now? Or you want to speak to Mr. President? You have some advice?
Good job, Mr. President.
Yeah,
Good job.
Good
job.
speech.
Good speech.
Yeah, that's
Good
it.
speech.
Yeah, just like the times of Barack Obama. Good speech,
Good speech. Yeah.
but it ends there. It's a good outing. Yeah, good public appearance and all. It ends there.
It was well written speech. Yeah.
All right. Guys, you heard it all. That's Shuge and Anayo. And they come out, let you know, straight to the point. This is their take, this where they stand. And basically, you might debate that. And that's why we always invite you to watch and view the point of view so you can share your point of view. I've been your host on the program, Idris. Thank you so much for viewing. Make sure you follow social media handles and make a deal with us. Every week we'll be right here to x-ray from different perspectives, issues, and national concern. And we can travel all across the world, bring you those topical issues. Do have a lovely day.